Prepare for insight.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the second episode of our rebooted podcast, Ugins Insight. I'm your host, Jordan, here from Orcs Magic. And today we're going to be discussing two topics. One of them's a bit close to the heart, more than the other one. The topics are going to be, we're going to discuss, collaborations is the title I will give it, but you could technically put sponsorships and everything else under that as well. So there's many ways you could take it. The second topic we're going to discuss is Pauper Edh. Yeah, I know what I said. Now, you're going to hear me out, but we'll get around to that. So I want to say a big thank you to everyone for the positive feedback from the last podcast. It was very good. And as always, you can follow us on Podbean, where we're going to be hosting ourselves from now on. And it's been great. It's been good fun. I thank you all for the kind comments for the first episode back. It was lovely to hear. And obviously, we also have the Vidcast, which is live on my YouTube video. So not only can you hear my beautiful English country voice, you can actually see the face that goes to radio. It is fantastic. So without further ado, what we're going to do, we are going to get stuck in. And now let's get around to our first topic, which of course we are going to be discussing collaboration. Hello everyone. So collaborations, right? I want to kind of break this down. The reason why I've brought this up is that I've been approached by another content creator for partaking. Although I'm not partaking, it's a bit weird. In his channel, one of his channel series, the guy that I'm talking about is MTG Burgeoning. Highly recommend you go check it out. The series I'm partaking in, he calls it the Sweet 16 Pioneer, where he opens a pack from each of the sets for Pioneer format, and whoever has the most high value card wins the card. Now, I don't know how it's working with this content creators. I assume that we're giving it away to a fan of the show or something like that, which I'm not fussed by. But overall, I'm just doing it to put my name out there. I'm quite happy to do it. Obviously, he's a bit smaller YouTuber than I am. But please, if you could go by and send him some love, I'll put the description within the Podbean description as well as the YouTube description. So please go along, send him some love. He's reached out and he's very lovely. And I've checked out his content and I'm quite happy. But while I was doing that, I actually thought about it as a topic about over the years that I've been a content creator and how I've interacted with a lot of other content creators and companies for that matter in terms of some minor sponsorships that I've done. And I've sort of figured, well, actually, I've actually had this proposed as a question once or twice while I'm streaming, and I actually thought, well, why not put it down in podcast? So I kind of wanted to discuss. So without further ado, we'll go with companies first, right? So with companies, one thing I've got to find overall, regardless if they're big or small, is you've got to be upfront and honest. You've got to be in constant communication with them as well. I learned early on that you can't oversell and underdeliver, for lack of a better term. Reason why is, you have all these lofty ideas. Company approaches you regardless of the size. Like, oh yes, finally, this could be the break. This could be the break. It never is. But it could be that one time. And so suddenly, you get all these ideas, you're discussing stuff left, right, and center. But of course, you oversell and you will underdeliver. Because the fact is, I do this as a hobby. I'm not a full-time content creator, okay? I am 100% doing this as a hobby. I quite enjoy doing it as a hobby. I do not want to do this as a job. If I do this as a job, I'm going to start hating it. I'm going to find it sucky. I'm going to have to make content constantly. And suddenly Magic goes from being a fun game that I play to being something I got to work at. And suddenly, if I'm not putting in good numbers, I won't care. I'll suddenly lose interest. And I don't want to be that guy. So one thing you've got to do is be in constant communication, but you've also got to be honest. The fact is, when I now talk to, probably the most recent one would be when we did some work for a New Zealand store, which was Magic Magpie. We had a chat and sort of I was very upfront and honest. I said, look, I've got this on my plate at the moment with work, but I'm happy to maybe do 4 videos. What kind of content do you want? Various things like that. We discussed the formats. Do they want it on Arena? Do they want it in paper? So we discussed a lot of varying things. And, we delivered all the content. They were very happy, and it was great, and it kind of worked out. And you kind of get rewards for whether you're working with a big company or a small company. Most small companies will tend to give you, like stores might give you store credit, which is fine, sort of thing. But it all depends on how business approach you take it. It's kind of a bit of a weird sort of dynamic to discuss. Personally, I'm just happy to work on it for the content, and sure, if they're going to shoot me some store credit or some sealed product, great, that'll do me fine. I'll happily promote. But of course, like, you have things like occasionally I've obviously done stuff with collaboration with Wizards, where spoiler reveals or a new product that's coming and various things like that. And sometimes what I find is that, of course, Wizards can be very specific on some things, like saying, here's the product, here's what we want you to do, blah blah blah, and give you a rough general idea. They don't want to curb your creativity, but they want to sort of give you a very defined direction, which is fine, but it does hamper the creative juices. Whereas occasionally they've also gone, oh yeah, we want you to promote X. Okay, any other guidance? Nope. Sure, fine. And of course, you deliver a video and you get good feedback because it's very you, and everyone quite enjoys it. And then the Wizards watch it and go, right, not quite what we had in mind. It's like, well, your brief was this. If you give me this brief, I'm going to deliver this. If you give me a very specific brief, I'll deliver this. But, but you can't have it both ways. So it's all one thing. If you're dealing with a company, constant communication, clarify things, give them schedules, give them deadlines, blah, blah, blah. Especially works both ways. Obviously, you've got to meet their deadline, but if you need something from them, i.e. material or other things of that nature, advise them when you need it by for filming purposes and stuff like that, because it does work out. Obviously, the other side of collaboration is when, obviously, it's content creators to content creators. Now, we could discuss big guys and little guys and various things like that, but we're all on the same thing. And I actually think there's two camps for this, and the two camps really are sort of the guys who are willing to promote other channels for nothing. Sort of just for general goodwill. As probably my good friend from over the years who I've done a lot of collaboration work with, which is MP Numbers on MTG. Please check him out. You can check him out via Twitter and Twitch, and he does various things. He's a master at Limited, I'll tell you that right now. He's an absolute genius. I can't do Limited to save my life. It is a mystical boogie-woogie science, but he is fabulous. He also is part of the podcast for Rather Be Drafting, so it's always good to tune in and listen to them guys. But basically, like, obviously, he said it best once, which is all ships rise with the tide. I.e., because he did, one of my first big collaboration projects was with him when he ran a game show called the Magic the Gathering Content Creator Challenges, or Challenge Content Creator. It was Triple C. I can't ever remember the title, and I always butchered it and always got it wrong. And it kind of became a bit of a running joke in season 1 and every subsequent season that I was involved in. But it was always good fun. And the fact is, because when MP set it up, he was all about, right, if you're joining this, you're not joining it to be self-centered and only promoting the stuff that you're involved in. It's all about everybody promoting each other and sort of getting together. And it was really good fun. And it was quite nice. You had like me, who was a very small YouTuber for the UK, but I brought my own quirky sense of humour. In one, I think my season, we also had MTG Youngmage, who had just started out, but he was rapidly growing, and I mean rapidly at the time, because obviously he had niche content and it works for him. We also had Jake and Joel Does Magic. We still occasionally tweeted each other and various things like that. Fantastic guys. And, it was all good fun. We all had a lot of fun a lot of the time. We did a lot of things together. And with the content came out and we promoted each other and did everything else. And, we tag ourselves in the tweet, and suddenly I would have all the other guys retweeting and liking and stuff like that, and you'd get the content out there. And of course, all our numbers for subscribers, followers, watch time, everything, every other numeric you can think of went up. The other kind of person you do have when it comes to collaboration with content creators is you have the guys who are a bit self-centered, who kind of want to be the main star of the show. They want to be promoted heavily, and the worst kind is that they feel that they're entitled to it. I've had it on occasion. People come into my stream or comment on my videos saying, or even DM me personally saying, I love what you do. I want you to promote my channel. I want you to do this, direct him here and there, like that. And he's like, yeah, sure, man. I mean, obviously we'll work it back and forth and do that. And he went, oh no, I'm not going to promote you. Well, that's not how it works, buddy. You know, and occasionally it does happen. Occasionally this happens all the time. I mean, funnily enough, probably one of the last ones I remember was it was on one of the early accesses. I think it was Throne of Eldraine early access. I was playing obviously on the day, streaming. You know, everything says thank you to Wizards of the Coast for allowing us to participate and blah blah blah. And a guy jumps into my stream and we're halfway through a game, and you know, of course I'm thank you for following, thank you for liking the stream, blah 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 blah, so on and so forth. And he's chatting and said, oh my god, dude, how are you playing it now? And I was like, so if you haven't read the description, we're part of the early access, you know, but I said Wizards of the Coast have kindly given us a loaded account and blah 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 blah, so on and so forth, and give them all the spiel just to make it clear, because obviously some people don't read the description or the titles or anything like that, and sometimes they've never seen it, and so it's just good to give them a bit of information. But this guy was like, "Oh, I want to do it." And it's like, "Well, are you a streamer?" And he's like, "No." It's like, okay, well, he said, yeah, I do content. I was like, okay, cool. Well, what do you do? He's like, oh, I do YouTube videos. So, oh, that's cool, man. It's cool. Well, reach out to the local wizard. No, I want you to tell them. No, certainly not. You know, for one, I'm not going to go to Wizards of the Coast and say, oh, by the way, matey boy would like an account on the day, because that ain't going to happen. That ain't going to happen in a month of Sundays. The amount of work it takes to get through to the early access point is unreal. So it's kind of going to be worked out. But you do occasionally come across them. But I would have to say, personally, out of, God, we must be approaching, I don't even know how many years. I'll have to find out. But we have been doing this for quite some time. But over the years, I would say I've only encountered a small percentage of those people who feel entitled to having the collaboration or having the promotion done for them. And it's like, nah, buddy, we've all got to work at this together. Because one thing I do tell people, because I've had people message and ask me that question as well, which is, how do I start streaming and blah blah blah, and and how much do you earn and stuff like that? And I go, nothing. I said, you think I'm doing this for making money? You're in the wrong business. That's not what I'm in it for. And I advise them that if they want to try and make money with Magic, they better start winning Pro Tours or something like that, because, I mean, sure, if you were to be a massive, like the massive content creators probably do bring in some money, but I don't know what kind of figure that is. It's probably a lot of privatization with sponsorship deals and Patreon and stuff like that probably helps them with that. But I don't think that any of the Magic Gathering guys, podcasters, content creators, streamers probably make enough to live off without having to broaden into other games, because that kind of feels like that's the way it is. We are a niche market, but we all have fun, and the fact is that I know that not everybody likes my content. There's probably a good portion who don't enjoy it, which is fine. But likewise, I already know that there is a portion that does enjoy my content, and that's fine as well, and I don't mind. It's kind of swings and roundabouts, they're going to have one or the other, and there's nothing wrong with that. So yeah. Anyway, we're going to move on, because I'm pretty sure I could delve down into this subject so much. But one last bit of thing I will say is that even if you are a small YouTuber, like, say you've only got 100 subscribers or something like that, and you want to get some promotion, contact a bigger guy or contact someone your own sort of size and work something out. The fact is that I'm always happy to work and promote with people. Hell, I remember when we were going to GP London, and the professor was coming over for it, and of course I was invited as one of the content creators and stuff like that, and I was like, oh my god, prof's coming, and I thought, I should ask him for a quick interview, because we're going to be vlogging the GP anyway, so we could do it as a little mini interview and it'd be great. And all the other Orcshead boys are like, yeah, that'll be good, but there's a couple of them go, dude, nah, it's Prof, man, he won't touch you with a batch ball. And I'm like, oh, maybe he won't. But then one random night, because obviously we're all in a big email link together, and I was like, I could just email him and just say, just ask, because I thought, well, what's the worst he's going to say? Is he going to say no? You can say no. If he says no, fine, that's all right. But I reached out, I put it out there and said, hi, Prof. Jordan here from Orcshead Magic. I run a YouTube channel. I'm going to be vlogging the event. I also do, unboxings and stuff like that as well. While we're there, I would love to have an interview with you if you have the time. I know you've probably got lots of things on, but maybe 10-15 minutes, it would be a pleasure if we could do it. And I sent it off and I didn't hear anything, and I was like getting all panicked, and I was like, oh my god, he's going to read, he's going to think I'm such an idiot, I'm going to get kicked out of the content thing, I'm not going to be able invited, I won't be able to do any of that. And I was like, oh my god, what have I done? And then I'm forgetting the fact that Profs is on a completely different time zone from us. So, things go through the night. He's sleeping. He's not going to respond until he sees it and the fast emails and all that jazz. But of course he saw it and he's like, oh my god, yes, of course, I would love to do it. It'd be great. Let's meet up. Let's pencil in this slot on this day for now, but, we can work it out. If I get a freer slot beforehand, we'll do it that. And I was like, awesome. So the fact is, if you're a small guy, go for the risks, Ask a content creator. There is no reason why they would say no immediately. The only reason they'll say no is that if there is clashing of schedules. If you're willing to work with time frames and demands, feel free. The fact is, content creators are happily, most content creators I know are happy to promote other channels. The fact is, if someone was to bring me on for an interview, I will happily promote, oh my god, guys, you got to listen to this coming out next week. I'm featured. It's going to be cool. Please go along and and it works out and stuff like that. So, highly recommend it. Just put yourself out there. It's a bit awkward, but trust me, it can pay off in the long run. So, without further ado, we're going to move on, because I'm pretty sure I could delve into some horror stories, but we're not going to go there. We're not going to go there. Not for this episode. No. Maybe in the future we will, but not today. So, without further ado, we're going to get to our second topic, which is, of course, Pauper Edh. So, what is Pauper Edh? Pauper Edh is a commander format. So, for those of you who aren't aware of Commander is where you have a commander who lives in the command zone, and you have 99 other cards, all within the commander's colour set, all of them being singleton. Now, with Pauper Edh, it's a slightly different. Instead of having a legendary, you can have a legendary creature, but it is any uncommon creature as your commander. So you're not limited to a legendary restriction. You could have a variety of creatures. If you wanted Blood Artist, for example, as your commander, you could. There's plenty of things that you could do with it. Also, obviously, your commander color, your cards start to follow your commander colors, but the 99 have to be commons only. Now, it's rather interesting because, I saw, when I was catching up on Friday Night Paper Fight, this is where I saw the idea, and I saw Cameron Lauder play his Demir control Pietro deck with Pietro. I can't even remember who the other partner was, but it was very controlling, and I thought, actually, it's quite sweet. I quite like the idea of it. And yeah, it's rather good. It's rather fun and entertaining. And especially as I decided to have a look through, and I was like, well, what creatures could I build? What creatures do I have to build around? And when I was flicking through, I had a look at Legendary first. I thought, let's start with Legendary and partners, and then we'll go to all the other kinds of things that we can do. And I landed on Fynn the Fangbearer. Now, funnily enough, I opened up a showcase of him when we did our Card Time unboxing, and I was like, okay, Infect. Well, Infect's a thing. And I thought, well, surely there's some infecting green. And so without further ado, we're going to get through to my rough deck tech, and let's go with it. So, Fynn the Fangbearer. He's obviously a 2-mana 1/3 creature. He has Death Touch, and his rules text is that whenever a creature you control with Death Touch deals damage to a player, that player will get 2 poison counters. So, not just 1 poison counter, but 2. So that matters. So, immediately I was kind of admittedly on, let's go Death Touch Tribal. So I was thinking things like Moss Viper, Ambush Viper, Deadly Recluses, various things like that. You know, even using like things like Nightshade Peddler to give non-death touchers death touch. You know, we've got things like I'm looking through. We've got Bloom Hooks to obviously help proliferate. We've got Kessig Recluses, which is a bigger death touch. I mean, probably our biggest death toucher is a greater basilisk, which is very entertaining when you start seeing 5 mana for a 3/5 with death touch. But we got things like Humbler of Mortals in here, which is rather sweet because it allows us to gain trample. And obviously the way trample works with death touch is that you just do 1 damage and then all the rest of the damage tramples over, so therefore you can potentially still get through for lethal. The biggest creature that we are running is a Maelstrom Colossus, and it is an 8 mana. It's an 8 mana 7/7, but it does have Cascade on it, and it's just for that slight little bit of value. It's really interesting. Obviously, the other main package I have in this deck is Infect, because there are some common Infect creatures. You know, Glistener Elf is number 1, and everyone probably knows that one. Ikoclaw is a big staple in a lot of Infect decks, again, because it's rather good. But then we start getting into things like Blight Mamba. Blight Mamba and Corpse Cur. And it just starts getting really interesting. Things like Viridian Betrayers, who have Infect as long as there's a poison counter on the table on one of your opponents. It's like, yeah, sure. And it's a 3/1 as well, so it's quite good. I am also running things like Sabertooth Cobra, which is just interesting for a rules text of it'll deal damage, it gives a poison counter. So it's not Infect, it's not Death Touch, it gives poison counters normally as well as doing damage. And at the beginning of their upkeep, they've got to pay 2 to prevent them getting another one, which is just interesting. So in terms of the creature base, it's really interesting. After playing a couple of decks with it, a couple of games with it as well, it does work quite nicely, but it needs some. Why my dog's barking? We do need some form, a bit more of card draw, but I'm looking to tweak the deck as I play more and more with the format. So obviously getting into spell side of things. Now with the spells, we got to protect our commander. We don't have any access to our usual protection for commander, which would obviously be like things like Swiftfoot Boots or I forget the other one, Lightning Greaves. Things like Ranger's Guile or Snakeskin Veil from the latest Kaldheim set is great because it gives, it's going to give us hexproof. We can also do things like Evolution Charm. We've got things like Explore for ramping. Return to Nature is just great for all round, exiling cards or something like that. Survivor's Bond is good because it gets Graveyard Recursion. Blinding Fog is rather sweet because Blinding Fog prevents all damage that we dealt to creatures this turn. So, it's a fog effect. But then creatures we control gain hexproof as well. So it's rather nice. You got things like Courage and Krausis, which obviously gives +1 counters and then proliferates as well. Ramp like Grow from the Ashes is just gravy, as well as Journey to Discovery, which was a very hard card for me to source here, but I managed to find one. Probably my favourite one, which is hilarious, which is Pistis Strike. This is from Mirrodin Block, which is 3 mana, destroy a creature with flying, and its controller gets a poison counter. Rather random, but it's rather fun. And then we've got things like Woodcutter's Grit, which also gains hexproof, as well as things like Multani's Decree, which destroys all enchantments, and you gain 2 life for each, so it can help you in a pinch late game, and various things like that. And then, obviously, Mulvaney Acid Moss, which is just a great card, destroys a land, and you get to search your library for a forest card and put it into your library. So it's 4 mana. 4 mana land destruction, this specific land, and then I'm going to also ramp, which is rather good for 4 mana. In terms of the spells, there needs to be, ideally, Wizards need to produce a green draw card in common. There is not that many in common, so you kind of got to do with what you got, and it's really awkward, but it can be fun, and there's plenty of things that we can do. Another way that we're also improving ourselves is that we've got some good artifact synergy in this. Now, of course, we've got some for creature equipment, as well as some for ramp, mana rocks and stuff like that. So things like Rosethorn Halberd is pretty good because, of course, it makes our creatures bigger, and it also auto equips as well on its first turn. Universal Solvent is possibly one of the greatest cards, purely because it can just destroy target permanent. It just allows green to deal with something that is a problem. Things like Arcane Signet and Felwar Stone are pretty good as well because, of course, it's mana ramp. Horned Helm has actually performed better than I thought it would, mainly because of the auto-equip, and you can give +1/+1 and trample. And with Fynn out in various things like that, you can swap it around and make things. It's rather good. Mind Stone is good for card draw. I mainly got it in here for card draw purposes. Vorak Battlehorns is another good one because, of course, the Battlehorns go on to a creature and then it can't be blocked by more than one creature. So suddenly, if you got that and a trample with Death Toucher, you can do a lot of things with it. Commander's Fear again, that's common. Thank you very much, Commander Legends. Darksteel Ignite is a common. Has been printed a common. So it's pretty much an indestructible mana rock and you do want it a lot of the time. Haunted Cloak's pretty good because it is a great equipment for 3 mana because it equips for number 1, but it also gives Vigilance, Trample, and Haste. So you can start moving this around quite nicely. And then you've also got Whisper Silk Cloak as well to make your creature unblockable. And then again Shroud. So it is one way of having a Lightning Greaves, but not having a Lightning Greaves. So yeah, it is rather interesting. So the artifacts kind of work really well in this deck, but I just kind of want a bit more card draw. There is a couple of cards that I could probably put in, but they are very mana heavy, or mana, you're talking about like or is it the Bonder's Ornament, which is a 3 mana rock and you pay 4 mana to draw a card. It's like, kind of don't want to be there. One thing I do like though is the enchantment side of this deck, which is really cool. Things like Predatory Hunger. Whenever your opponent successfully cast a creature spell, put a 1/1 counter on an enchanted creature. This just thing can make things just very much out of hand, and especially on a Death Toucher is just sweet. Rancor, great card. Everybody knows it, and it works all round. Armor of Thorns. Oh, you can choose to play as an instance, and you can play it only on a non-black creature, and the enchanted creature will get +2/+2. But the only problem is with the Armor of Thorns, if you do it as an instant, you gotta sacrifice at the end of turn. Guy's Touch, I have in the deck for now, and I've played 4 games with this deck so far, and 2 of those games, Guy's Touch ramped me up so hard it was brilliant, and the other 2 games, it was dud. So it's kind of a very hit and miss enchantment, so it's kind of interesting. But we've also got some cool things like Lignify, helps deal with creatures on the board or commanders or various things like that. Things like Beast Master's Mage Mark, that is a mouthful. Whenever the creature gets +1/+1, whenever creature controls becomes blocked, it gets +1/+1 until the end of turn for each creature blocking it. So obviously with trample on it, it's rather sweet. And then we've got some another slight bit of protection, which is obviously Snake Umbra as well as Treefork Umbra, which just allows us to obviously deal that, sort of protect it. And obviously, because if the creature gets destroyed, the Umbra comes off and the creature's still there. It's rather sweet. And then you get to obviously the land strategy. Now, obviously with Pauper, you can't have any of your fun utility lands. No, there's no Reliquary Towers. There's no Field of Ruins. There's none of that good stuff at common. I'll tell you that right now. So we had to work around it quite nicely. So in this, we're running five non-basic lands, which is the Forge of Heroes, Hickory Woodlot, Opal Palace, Path of Ancestry, and Tranquil Thicket. That is it. And then we've got 26 forests. It is an interesting deck. As I said, I've so far, generally when you play, if you're going to play Pauper EDH, the standard rules for Pauper EDH is you start with 30 and commander damage is 16 as well. And I've been playing this deck against normal EDH decks. And the 4 game, I didn't win a single game with the 4 games, but I got incredibly close to knocking out, because I was spreading around the damage, because I'm not an Infect player, and I do realise that when you're an Infect player, you dog a person. But this can't play the way normal Infect does, so I've kind of got to work around that. So I was doing it in terms of, well, I've got to spread the love around. If he's got them blockers, if player A, who I've been attacking, has now got blockers, I need to go for player B or player C and vice versa, And so you got to kind of stack them all, and then I kind of want to proliferate into killing them. So there's plenty of things to do in that sense. And I got up to like having one player on 9 poison in one game, and the other 2 were on 7. And then the guy, Meaty Boy, comboed off, and we all lost the game in one go. So it was kind of interesting playing it. The only thing I think the deck needs more of is card draw. That's the one thing that is hurting this deck so far. So I'm certainly going to be looking into it. And it's going to be certainly be very interesting. If anyone's got any ideas for green card draw in common, please feel free, comment, let me know, because I've been racking my brains and I can't find anything. And I've been searching through Gatherer and NTG Familiar and everything else. So I'm struggling. So I'm sure somebody out there has a better idea. But one thing that I noticed, funnily enough, was when I was playing it, I was talking to obviously all the other players in the various games, and a lot of them were like, "Oh my god, oh well, no, you need to run this," and I go, "I can't, it's not common," and they were like, "Oh god, it's really difficult." And I went, "Yeah, I know it is," but at the same time, I was playing cards that they'd never seen, and I go, "Hang on, green's got this, green's got X, green's got Y." It's like, yeah, green's got this. It's like, what? That's mental. Why has it not been reprinted? I said, I don't know. But yeah, so it's kind of really funny when suddenly you're bringing up old cards. It's like, funnily enough, I was going through my collection and I found Tsunami, which was interesting. Tsunami, no, it wasn't Tsunami. It was Tornado, Hurricane. It is like 6 mana, destroy target permanent. Doesn't matter what it is, just says destroy permanent. And I was like, sweet, straight in, removal in green, it's going in. Yeah, it's only on uncommon. I was on whiteboard. I didn't have it didn't have anything, so I couldn't tell what kind of level it was. It's 4th edition, I think. So it was really annoying. But yeah, it's rather good. It's good fun. But we can have a lot of fun with it. So in terms of the format, I'm quite enjoying it. And funnily enough, I've been getting into Pauper a lot more. I've been playing on a monthly tournament through Discord. It's really rather good. So yeah, so that is Pauper EDH in a nutshell. Now, one thing I want to ask you, ladies and gentlemen, is what deck would you build? If you're any uncommon, what uncommon creature, if you had to build a commander deck only using commons, what deck would you build around? And that's what I want to hear. I want to see comments on the vidcast, in the Twitter feed, and blah blah blah. I want to know, what would you build precisely, because there are so many ways that you can build a Pauper EDH deck. Once you've taken away the legendary limitation as well, it gets really interesting. And I've seen a lot of variety out there, so it's been rather cool. And yeah, so that's pretty much where we are for that. And I think we're going to end the podcast there. It's going to be another short and sweet one, which is quite good. One thing I do want to say is that I want to reach out to some other creators to get on the show as a guest for an episode. Now, one thing I want to know is, if do you know a content creator who'd want to come on and want to be interviewed by a former, well, am I still a former? I'm a former Englishman. I now live in New Zealand, so and I've got residency, so technically I'm still English, but I suppose I'm a former English person. But yeah, but if there's anyone who would want to be interviewed, or if you want to hear someone get interviewed, who would it be? And obviously, realistically, that'd be great, because there's no way Mark Rosewater's coming on this podcast. Not unless he wants to hit me up, and Mark Rosewater hit me up. But apart from that, we're going to end it there. So please make sure you follow us on Podbean. Sorry, I say. That's where the podcast is going to be hosted. The vidcast is obviously going to be put on our YouTube channel. That's where you can see all the cards we're talking about, as well as my beautiful, beautiful face. And also make sure you follow us on our YouTube as well as our Facebook page, because that's where we do our streaming. And I want to say a big thank you to all for the last load of comments and positivity we got from the last episode. So thank you kindly. Stay safe, relax everyone, and I will catch you guys later.